She was the villain. She was the third person in the map.
The cameras are already rolling when the two brothers walk in from opposite ends of the chapel. It is September 2022, Westminster Abbey. The Queen is dead, and the world is watching how her grandsons stand. Prince William, now first in line behind his father, walks in uniform. Prince Harry, the Duke of Sussex, walks in a plain dark suit, his military titles stripped away. They sit near each other. They do not look at each other. And every body language expert with a television contract leans in to read what neither man will say out loud. That image travels the planet within minutes. Two brothers, one coffin. A silence so loud it drowns out the choir. For years, plenty of people defended this institution. They believed King Charles III had earned his crown after the longest wait of any heir in British history. They believed Queen Camilla deserved to be judged by her work and not her past. They believed Prince William was right to guard the monarchy from chaos. And they believed Prince Harry, somewhere along the way, went too far. Hi viewers, before this goes any further, tell me honestly in the comments, do you think these two brothers will ever truly stand together again? Or is that bridge gone for good? Because here is the thing that keeps pulling people back. The closer anyone looks at Princess Diana's legacy, the harder that old loyalty becomes to hold. The monarchy is flawless at ceremony. The flags, the carriages, the timing down to the second. It is far shakier at the one thing the public now demands, emotional honesty. And the gap between those two things is exactly where this whole story lives. Diana understood that gap better than anyone the palace ever produced. She used it. She suffered for it. And decades after her death in 1997, her two sons are still standing on opposite sides of it. Royal commentators have spent years noticing how the institution survives its storms. It waits. It says nothing. It lets time do the work. From a public relations standpoint, silence has always been the Crown's sharpest tool. But silence has a cost, and the bill tends to arrive a generation late. Somewhere between the funeral processions and the memoir headlines, something shifted in how the public reads this family. Not in a press release, not in a statement, in the quiet spaces between what is shown and what is admitted. No one can point to the exact moment it changed. But it changed. A young woman in a black sheep sweater looked straight into a camera in 1981, and 40 years later, her sons are still living inside that look. That is the strange physics of Princess Diana. She's been gone since 1997, yet she keeps appearing, in comparisons, in headlines, in the way every new royal woman gets measured against a memory she can never argue back to. The press calls it the Diana effect. It never actually ended. It just changed shape. Watch how it works. Catherine, the Princess of Wales, steps out for a hospital visit, kneels to speak to a child at eye level, and within hours the commentary writes itself. She does it the way Diana did. The warmth, the instinct for the camera that does not look like instinct. Royal biographers have long debated whether Catherine studied that playbook or simply shares it. Either way, the comparison is a gift and a cage at the same time. Then there is Queen Camilla, who lives on the other side of that same ghost. For decades, the British press cast her as the woman in the story Diana told the world, the third person in a marriage. Diana said it herself in that 1995 interview that the palace never recovered from. 3 people, a crowded marriage. The line went off like a bomb, and Camilla has been walking through the smoke ever since. So you have 2 women, both shaped by a third who is no longer here. One inherits Diana's glow, the other inherits Diana's grievance, and the public keeps both ledgers open. William carries the inheritance differently. He carries her causes, homelessness, mental health, the landmines turned into conservation work. He carries her duty, but he also carries the lesson of what the spotlight did to her, and that lesson reads, in his every guarded public move as, never again. Protect the wife. Protect the children. Protect the institution that, in his telling, failed his mother when she needed it most. Harry carries something else. He carries the wound out loud. He turned the word spare into a global bestseller and a worldview. Where William learned to seal the gap, Harry learned to pry it open and show the world what is inside. 2 sons, same mother, opposite conclusions. and the commentators who track this family for a living have started noticing something unsettling. The cycles repeat. A young royal is adored, then scrutinised, then turned into a symbol of something larger than themselves. The same machine that built Diana up and tore her down keeps running, generation after generation, like it never learned a thing. The pattern is starting to look too familiar to ignore.
Things you talk about a lot is Harry's estrangement from William, the fact that he doesn't have his phone number, which incidentally the source on the Sussex side denied.
The phone call that was supposed to fix everything ends in less than 10 minutes, and afterward neither side will say what was said. That is the texture of the William and Harry rift in the 2020s. Not a single explosion, but a long series of doors closing softly. There is the 2020 exit, when the Sussexes stepped back from royal duties and crossed an ocean. There is the Oprah interview in 2021, broadcast to tens of millions, in which the couple described a family that would not protect them. There is the 2023 memoir, in which Harry put a physical altercation with his brother into print and let the world read every line. Each event lands, and each time the palace does the same thing. It says almost nothing. From a public relations standpoint, William's silence is not weakness. It is strategy. He is the future of the institution, and the institution's oldest rule is that you do not feed the story. You let the other side talk until the talking becomes the story. Royal observers have noted for years that the Prince of Wales rarely responds to provocation directly. He absorbs it. He waits. He lets the contrast do the arguing for him. The dutiful brother at home, the departed brother on a streaming deal. But silence is a choice, and choices have weight. While Harry speaks and William does not, King Charles III stands in the middle, trying to hold two things at once. He is the monarch who must protect the continuity of the crown. He is also a father with two sons who can barely be in the same country. Those two jobs do not always agree, and the public has watched him try to serve both. Then there is Queen Camilla, whose position quietly hardens through all of this. As the rift deepens, her role as a stabilizing presence beside the king becomes more visible and more scrutinized. Every steady appearance reinforces her legitimacy. Every reminder of the past chips at it. She occupies a strange space, essential to the institution's calm, yet never fully released from the narrative that defined her. And then something shifts that almost no one outside the building can see clearly. Reports begin describing a change in how palace communications handle anything connected to Harry. A tightening, a new caution, a sense that the strategy of pure silence is being adjusted into something more deliberate. What that adjustment actually involves is never laid out plainly, and that change was not explained publicly. A camera catches Queen Camilla mid-step at a state occasion, and within hours the freeze frame is everywhere, captioned by strangers who have decided they can read a marriage from a single second of footage. This is the daily weather of being Camilla. Every glance gets decoded. Every gap of space between her and another royal becomes evidence in a trial that has no verdict and never adjourns. Body language experts, a job title that exists almost entirely because of this family, turn ordinary human movement into headlines about distance, tension, cold shoulders. Most of it is noise, but noise, repeated long enough, becomes its own kind of fact. Consider the distance she has actually travelled. In the 1990s, she was arguably the most criticised woman in Britain. Polls were brutal. The public had chosen its heroine, and Camilla was cast as everything standing against her. The idea that this same woman would one day be crowned queen would have sounded at the time impossible. Yet in May 2023 she was, crowned beside King Charles III at Westminster Abbey, holding a title that the late Queen Elizabeth II herself publicly signalled support for. On paper, the rehabilitation is complete. The official positioning is settled. Queen, full stop. But public discourse and official positioning are two different countries, and Camilla lives on the border. The crown can confer a title. It cannot confer the feeling. And the feeling, for a stubborn slice of the public, still reaches back to a televised interview and a sentence about 3 people in a marriage. Charles understands this better than anyone because he chose this. For decades, he protected the relationship through scandal, ridicule, and resistance. Now, he protects the role. His public conduct toward his wife reads as deliberate, a steady, visible insistence that she belongs exactly where she stands. From a public relations standpoint, every shared appearance is an argument.
One you did miss was PJ and Duncan. They were very good.
No, they were.
When I was at school,
Sir, they were brilliant.
Love them, that's those
They
two.
were. we had a very brief music career a few years ago.
Very
former
brief.
life.
Do you have...
She is the queen, treat her accordingly. The difficulty is that legitimacy inside the monarchy is not only legal, it is emotional. The succession is governed by clear law and clear order. Public affection follows no statute at all, and that is the weight Camilla carries that no coronation can lift. The knowledge that her position is secure on paper and contested in sentiment. So the analysts keep watching the footage, the pauses, the angles, the half-second where someone decides a story is hiding. What was not said became louder than what was. The announcement is short, blunt, and almost unheard of for the British monarchy. A prince is being removed. In recent years, Prince Andrew's place in the institution has collapsed in public view. He stepped back from royal duties. His military affiliations and royal patronages were stripped. He lost the use of His Royal Highness in any official capacity. The fall is documented, official, and, by the standards of a family that buries everything in silence, startlingly explicit. The palace does not usually say the quiet part. With Andrew, it had to. The shadow of his controversies has lingered over the institution far beyond his own headlines, the most damaging of which trace back to his association with the late financier Jeffrey Epstein. And reporting into 2025 and 2026 kept the matter alive, with continued scrutiny and ongoing media attention framed, properly, as allegations and investigations rather than settled fact. The point for the monarchy is not any single verdict, it is the staining. A working royal became a liability the institution could not absorb, and everyone watched it happen. For King Charles III, this is a reputation burden of a particular kind. He cannot delete a brother, he can only contain one. And containment in the modern media landscape is brutal because the internet does not forget and does not move on. Every documentary, every fresh report, drags the name back into the frame beside the crown the king is trying to steady. This is where Prince William's role sharpens. As the future of the monarchy, he is widely reported to take a harder, cleaner line on figures who threaten the institution's credibility. The contrast is the strategy. Where the old monarchy protected its own at almost any cost, the next one signals that it will not. From a public relations standpoint, distance from Andrew is not cruelty, it is survival. Because the real crisis here is not one man, it is trust. The modern monarchy runs on a single fragile asset, the belief that it stands for something steadier and cleaner than ordinary power. Andrew is the proof of how fast that belief can erode. One scandal, handled badly, and the whole edifice looks less like a moral centre and more like any other institution protecting itself. So beneath the public statements, commentators describe something else taking shape, a quiet reordering of how risk is managed inside the royal machine. Who is protected? Who is cut loose? What the institution is willing to sacrifice to survive the next storm. That restructuring quietly changed everything behind the scenes. He walks onto the stage alone, and for a moment it is easy to forget that the king is the one who still wears the crown. Prince William, the Prince of Wales, has been doing more of this lately, stepping into the centre of a moment that, a decade ago, would have belonged to his father or grandmother. A major environmental prize he founded, a homelessness initiative carrying his name and his money behind it, foreign visits where he speaks for the institution without anyone above him in the frame. The visibility is rising, and people who track this family for a living have noticed the climb. If this is your kind of story, the quiet power shifts most people miss. Subscribe and turn on notifications, because this channel breaks down the moves the palace would rather you scroll right past. None of this means King Charles III is stepping aside. He reigns, he carries the boxes of state papers, he holds the weekly audiences. But the workload is visibly redistributing, and royal commentators describe a generational handoff already underway in tone, if not yet in title. The king has spoken openly about a slimmed-down monarchy, fewer working royals, a tighter core. From a public relations standpoint, that smaller core puts William closer to the middle of everything by simple math.
Zara!
You seen?
I said, Mummy looks great in blue.
Yeah.
Still not convinced about the dress that I'm in.
Zara trying her
Get
best
off my
to
fingers,
be
Zara.
quiet.
Take the hint.
Beside him stands Catherine, the Princess of Wales, whose own public standing has become one of the institution's steadiest assets. Through her 2024 health announcement and her careful public return, she held a kind of trust that money cannot manufacture. The pairing reads as deliberate, a future king and queen presented as calm, modern and unshaken. Watch the engagements closely and a pattern shows up. Appearances that feel coordinated, messaging that leans forward toward what the monarchy is becoming, rather than what it has been. Diplomacy styled less like inherited ceremony, and more like a brand managing its own future. Analysts are careful to call this a shift in emphasis, not a transfer of authority. The king is still the king, but the choreography is hard to miss. And when observers see this much alignment, this consistently, they stop asking what it means and start asking what it is building toward. And observers began asking what it was preparing for. Thousands of miles from London, a man who was once a working prince records a podcast in California, and every word still travels straight back to the palace door. Prince Harry, the Duke of Sussex, lives outside the institution now. That part is settled and public. He and Meghan stepped back in 2020, built a life in the United States, signed the deals, raised their children far from the machine that raised him. The distance is geographic and it is real. What stays unsettled is everything underneath it. If a story about a family divided by an ocean and held together by a memory moves you, share it in the comments. Your take might be the one that makes someone else see it differently. The media runs two scripts at once. One says reconciliation is coming, a thaw, a quiet meeting, a door cracked open. The other says the distance is permanent, the trust gone, the damage done. Royal biographers have long debated which version is real, and the honest answer is that both get written every few months, depending on a single photograph or a single line in an interview. What keeps Harry at the emotional centre is Diana. To a large part of the public, he is the son who looks most like her grief and carries it most openly. When he speaks about being unprotected, about a press that hunts, about a family that closes ranks, he is speaking in a language she made famous. The Spare became more than a memoir title. It became a cultural symbol, the idea that an institution sorts its children into the essential and the expendable, and that the expendable one finally refused the role. That is the symbol. The literal truth is more tangled, and the speculation never rests. Now and then, the two brothers seem to land on the same note in separate statements. A shared cause, a shared word about their mother, a tone that lines up for a moment across an ocean. The press lights up. Alignment, the headlines say. A signal. But no one confirmed coordination. A single white flower laid at a memorial sets off a day of arguments, and the woman it honours has been gone for more than 25 years. That is the strange power Diana still holds. Princess Diana is not a memory the public is willing to file away. She is a live wire, touched again every time this family marks an anniversary, unveils a statue, or stands at a podium for a cause she once owned. Decades on, she remains the reference point that everything else gets measured against. Watch how it surfaces. William speaks for a humanitarian effort, and the comparison arrives instantly. That is her work, her instinct, her face in his. He rarely invites it. He does not need to. The public draws the line on its own, because it has been drawing that line his entire life. Harry reaches for her on purpose. In interview after interview, he returns to his mother, what she endured, what she would have wanted, what he believes the institution did to her. Royal biographers note that this is one of the few subjects on which both brothers, divided on nearly everything else, clearly agree. They both believe they are protecting her memory. They simply disagree completely on how, and the press has its own version of her. What would Diana have wanted has become a phrase that gets attached to almost anything. The rift, the reconciliation, the children, the crown. It is unanswerable, which is exactly why it never stops getting asked. She cannot correct the record, so everyone writes their own. Even Catherine gets pulled into the comparison, cast at times as the inheritor of Diana's warmth, the proof that the monarchy learned something.
Oh god, that's another classic.
Here, use borrow my ones that Marco's got. Here. I should fit.
That's just about the stupidest thing I could have done.
From a public relations standpoint, that comparison is a gift to the institution and a quiet pressure on the woman living under it. Then comes a major public event, the kind the whole family attends, and the symbolism splits down the middle. One outlet reads warmth, another reads strain. The same footage, the same faces, two stories, two interpretations, one family, no shared explanation. The narrator stops, somewhere in the middle of all of it, and admits the thing that is hardest to admit, that defending this institution stopped feeling simple a long time ago. Loyalty was easy when the story was clean. King Charles III earned his reign. Queen Camilla earned her chance. Prince William earned his caution. Prince Harry pushed too far. It fit. It made sense. It let a person admire the crown without having to ask uncomfortable questions about the people inside it. But the longer anyone studies this family, the more the people start to disappear, and the system comes into view. Charles is not only a man, he is the office of monarch, doing what the office demands. Camilla is not only a wife, she is a role the institution needed legitimised. William is not only a brother, he is the future the machine is protecting. Harry is not only a son, he is the part the machine decided it could lose. Seen this way, the human drama softens into something colder and clearer. These are positions on a board, and once that comes into focus, the real subject stops being who hurt whom inside one family. It becomes trust. Whether an institution built on silence and ceremony can still earn the belief of a public that now expects honesty. Whether tradition is enough when the audience has changed. There is an exhaustion in it too. The cycles never stop. Adoration, scrutiny, symbol, repeat. The same machine running on the same fuel, decade after decade, asking the public to feel everything while explaining almost nothing. At some point, the clean version simply does not hold anymore. Not because the institution is evil, because it is human, and it keeps pretending it is something more. At some point, loyalty stops being blind and becomes conditional. The crown sits on a velvet cushion under glass, watched by a line of strangers, and not one of them agrees on what it actually means anymore. That is where this ends, not with a verdict, but with a question the monarchy itself cannot answer. There is no secret alliance to reveal here, no plot of revenge to expose. There is only a shift in how the public has come to see an old institution, and the people standing inside it as that shift accelerates. If this is the kind of story that makes you think, the kind worth sitting with, subscribe, turn on notifications, and tell others what you took from it. The best conversations on this channel happen in the comments, and yours might be the one that stays with someone. Lay the pieces out one last time. William holds the future, the office the whole machine is built to protect. Charles holds the present, the steady hand keeping it all upright for now. Harry holds the wound, the external mirror reflecting back everything the institution would rather not see in itself. Camilla holds a title that is settled in law and still contested in feeling, her legitimacy secure on paper and argued over in public. And Diana holds the foundation underneath all of it, the unresolved emotional centre that every story about this family keeps circling back to. Royal biographers will keep debating it. The press will keep writing both endings. The public will keep choosing sides. And the only real question left is the one no palace statement will ever settle, whether the monarchy survives by guarding its traditions or by rewriting how the next generation is allowed to feel about it. Because in the end, the crown was never only about power. It was about who the public chooses to forgive and who it never forgets.